Amelia Rivers was the kind of woman everyone admired. A high-powered executive in one of the largest tech firms in the country, she commanded attention wherever she went. She had a luxurious penthouse in the city, a sleek car, and the type of wardrobe you'd expect from someone who had made it in life. To the outside world, she was the epitome of success, sharp, driven, and always in control. But behind the polished exterior, Amelia carried a weight few could see. Her rise to the top had come at a significant cost, one she rarely allowed herself to acknowledge. Years of late nights, missed family gatherings, and canceled plans had piled up like a mountain of regrets. But she didn't have time to dwell on it. There was always another deal to close, another meeting to attend, and another challenge to conquer. At 45, Amelia had reached the pinnacle of her career. As the CEO of her company, she had taken it to heights no one had imagined. Yet as she looked out from her office window one evening, gazing at the twinkling lights of the city, an unsettling emptiness settled in her chest. She ignored it, as she always did, and turned her attention back to the endless emails. It wasn't until a crisp autumn morning, when Amelia was preparing for a critical board meeting, that her world came crashing down. As she walked into the office, her vision suddenly blurred, and her head felt as if it were spinning. She grabbed the side of a desk to steady herself, but her legs gave out beneath her. Everything went black. When she awoke, she was in a hospital room. The sterile scent, the beeping of machines, and the white walls made her feel like she was in a dream. A doctor stood at her bedside, clipboard in hand, looking at her with concern. "Amelia, you had a fainting episode," the doctor began. "We've run some tests, and I'm afraid there's more going on. Your body is under an enormous amount of stress. You have high blood pressure, and there are early signs of heart disease. If you don't make some serious changes to your lifestyle, you're at risk for a heart attack or worse." Amelia stared at the doctor in disbelief. Her? Heart disease? She was only in her 40s, still in the prime of her career. But as the reality of the situation sank in, a deep sense of dread washed over her. She had always prided herself on being strong, unstoppable even, but now her body was sending a message she couldn't ignore. The doctor continued, "You've been pushing yourself too hard for too long. You need to slow down. Prioritize your health, your well-being. You need to think about what really matters." Those words echoed in her mind as she was discharged from the hospital a few days later. What really matters? Amelia had never allowed herself the luxury of that question. Her career had always come first, and everything else, friends, family, relationships, had taken a back seat. But now, forced to confront her own mortality, she couldn't help but wonder. Had she made the right choices? Amelia took a leave of absence from work, a decision that shocked her colleagues. She had never missed a day of work unless absolutely necessary. But this time, it was different. As she spent her days resting and reflecting in the quiet of her penthouse, she realized just how isolated she had become. The phone rarely rang, except for work-related calls. There were no invitations to dinner, no friends checking in. She had always been too busy for friendships, too focused on her goals. Her mother, who lived in a small town a few hours away, called occasionally, but even those conversations had become strained. Amelia hadn't visited in over a year, always using work as an excuse. Her mother's voice on the phone was kind, but there was an unspoken sadness in it, a longing for connection that Amelia had ignored for far too long. One evening, Amelia sat on her couch, staring at an old photo album she had dug out from the closet. As she flipped through the pages, she saw snapshots of a different life, a life before the endless meetings, the deadlines, and the deals. There were pictures of her with her college friends, laughing and carefree, a photo of her and her mother at her graduation, arms wrapped around each other. And then there was a picture of Amelia with Ethan, her ex-fiancé, taken years ago on a sunny beach vacation. Ethan had been the love of her life. They had been engaged for nearly 2 years, but as Amelia climbed the corporate ladder, she had less and less time for him. Their relationship had crumbled under the weight of her ambition. "There's no room in your life for anyone else," he had said during their final argument. "You're married to your job." At the time, Amelia had brushed off his words as the complaints of someone who didn't understand her drive. But now, sitting alone in her empty apartment, those words stung. He had been right. She had sacrificed everything for her career, and now she had nothing but her title to show for it. A week later, Amelia made a decision. She called her mother and asked if she could come visit for a few days. Her mother's surprise quickly turned to joy, and within hours, Amelia was packing a bag and driving out of the city. As she arrived at her childhood home, the warmth of familiarity greeted her. The house was small, cozy, filled with the scent of freshly baked cookies. Her mother welcomed her with open arms, and for the first time in years, Amelia felt a sense of peace. They spent the days talking, cooking together, and reminiscing about the past. Her mother didn't push or ask too many questions, but her presence alone was enough to remind Amelia of what she had been missing. The simplicity of those moments made her realize how much she had taken for granted. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch, sipping tea, Amelia's mother gently said, "You've worked so hard, sweetheart, but life isn't just about work. It's about the people we love, the memories we make. Don't let life pass you by while you're chasing something that won't fill your heart." Those words pierced through Amelia's soul. She had spent so long chasing after success, believing that it would bring her happiness. But now she understood that true fulfillment came from the connections we nurture, the relationships we build, and the love we give and receive. When Amelia returned to the city, she knew things had to change. She didn't go back to work right away. Instead, she reached out to old friends, reconnecting with people she had lost touch with. She took up hobbies she had long abandoned: painting, reading, and even hiking. Slowly, she began to rebuild her life, not around her career, but around the things that truly mattered. Months later, when she did return to work, she was a different person. She no longer allowed herself to be consumed by the demands of the job. She delegated more, set boundaries, and made time for her loved ones. Her colleagues noticed the change, and though some were puzzled by her newfound approach, Amelia knew she had made the right choice. Success, she realized, wasn't about the title on her business card or the size of her office. It was about living a life that was rich with love, joy, and connection. The price of success was no longer something she was willing to pay, not at the cost of her happiness and health. And for the first time in years, Amelia felt truly successful,